Welcome back to Insanity Check with Dr. Anita. I am your host, Dr. Anita, and I am joined by my co-contributors, Eloy, Charday, and Adrian. Good morning, gang. How you doing today?
Good morning.
Good
Good.
morning. Thank you.
Bright, shiny faces with smiling, and we're all in our places. And I don't remember how that rhyme goes from elementary school, but I think you know which one I'm talking about. And this morning, we are continuing our discussion about Mr. Kanye West and his decision to run for president. As I know I said several times in our first show, it was not about criticizing or condemning. It was really about my thinking out loud and wanting to ask the question, is this crazy or is it me that it doesn't seem like there was anyone in his inner circle thinking about that discussion with him? And we ended on the note where we were talking about psychological safety and some of those drivers. And Adrian mentioned the fact that there's probably some healing that needs to take place. We mentioned mental health and wellness. And today I decided that we want to talk about psychological safety, what those different drivers are, and how they might be showing up in our personal lives. I mentioned last time that none of us are experts in mental health and wellness, but in the area that I do have expertise, that's where I want to talk from today. So for those of you who may not be familiar with me, I have a bachelor's degree in management, a master's degree in organizational leadership, and a master's and a PhD in human and organization systems. So I know about adult learning theory, I know about what drives us, and I also have a degree in life, which is huge. I have certifications in psychological safety as a practitioner. I am a strengths-based coach. I am an energy leadership coach, and I'm a professional coach. So with all of that to the table, I'm very comfortable in talking about psychological safety today and where we're going to go. I want to give you the different realms of psychological safety. And while I give that out to you, I'm going to ask my co-contributor to think about which one might be hitting them right now and how it's showing up. And then we'll take it from there. So safety is actually an acronym. And the S is for security, or how much control you feel like you have, or how much control you actually have in your environment. A is for autonomy, your ability to come and go as you please. F is fairness, wanting fair exchanges for yourself and others. The E stands for esteem, how you see yourself, how you think others see you, and how others really do see you. T is trust, and we all want trust. That is the foundation for all of our healthy relationships. And Y. Y stands for the degree to which each of you needs each one of those other safety factors in order to feel safe to show up and live life full. So that being the case, I want to share a little bit of my background with you while I give our co-contributors some time to think about which driver they're dealing with right now. Again, S is security, A is autonomy, F is fairness, E is esteem, T is trust, and Y is the degree to which you need each one of those. When I was in the second grade, my white second grade school teacher told my mother that I probably wasn't smart enough to be able to keep up with the class. Now, I mentioned the fact that my teacher is white, not because of what's going on in the world today as far as race relations and always striving for equality, but because during the time when I was growing up, and I dare say still now, white teachers would, for whatever reason, tell the parents of Black and brown children that their kids couldn't keep up. It could be that for brown children who are coming and English is their second language, you've got that barrier between the languages and the meanings of words. And for Black children, it could just simply have been they just didn't think we could catch up for whatever reason, probably because historically we weren't allowed to learn to begin with. So that being said, my mother, who was an educator herself, she taught honors English. She was the chair of the yearbook, and she was very well connected in the school district. She graciously thanked that teacher and said her dad and I will have her tested. My mom wasn't a dummy. She knew exactly what was going on. So she had me tested, and the results were that not only could I keep up with my second grade class, but I was actually placed in the GATE program, which stands for Gifted and Talented Education. In other words, I went from second grade level to fourth grade level because the teacher said I wasn't bright enough. That being said, that tape always played in my head, even through my adulthood, that I wasn't smart enough. But it served me to a certain extent because it pushed me to get 4 degrees. It pushed me to get all the credentials that I have. It pushed me to win awards and get accolades and letters of recommendations from the colonels that I was blessed to work with on the Air Force Base. So that tape that was always telling me I wasn't smart enough actually drove me to prove to myself and others that I was smart enough. Fast forward to now, I'm a consultant, and I'm in that space from no longer an employee to the not yet wildly successful entrepreneur. And some days I don't feel like I'm smart enough. And it's not that I'm not smart enough, it's I'm not quite smart in that area, but I have the smarts to get there. So let's make that distinction really clear. So again, my psychological safety driver that has driven me for years was esteem and not feeling smart enough. But I have since changed that tape in my head. So I'd like to know right now from my co-contributors, which one of these drivers seems to be impacting you right now and how is that showing up? And then when we go through that round, we'll talk about what we can do to change those things. So let's start with Eloy.
Yeah, thank you. It's security for me, for sure, security. I'm a few weeks shy of the fall semester, beginning, and everything is different. School is completely different because it's virtual. It's also different because we went from a quarter system at 11 weeks to semester system at 15 weeks. And work is different as well. Every new quarter, every new semester that begins, our hours have to change, our workload has to change, and I'm smack in the middle of that right now. So my security seems frayed.
Okay. And it's because it seems like things are completely out of your control.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Sade, what's coming up for you?
The first thing that I think of is fairness. I go above and beyond to make sure my inner circle and really anyone that I come in contact with feels like they have my support, whether that's listening, whether that's motivating, whether they just need to see my face or to hear my voice or someone to understand that it's difficult right now being in this bubble and in a sense being told what we can and cannot do. And I feel like I don't always offer that same compassion towards myself. I feel like I need to be up. I need to be learning. I need to be doing something new. I need to be making use of my time instead of just sitting and acknowledging that this is difficult and this is overwhelming and it does make you feel a certain way. And so I feel like that balance of the fairness that you give and that you receive is definitely where I'm struggling in terms of creating my safety net.
Very good. Adrian, how about for you?
When I initially thought of this, my initial connection was really with the term trust, but as I sort of had time to think about it more, I really think it is esteem. When I think about esteem in terms of my own life, I've had lots of issues with my own personal self-esteem and my own personal self-image. And I think that's why I really pride myself on being able to lift other people up and, think of ways that I can help them feel better about themselves and really just champion, mental health and mental well-being so that you could overall just feel as best as you can. And I think as much as I am a champion for helping other people to feel better about themselves, that I'm not always doing that for myself. And I'm not always supporting myself in the way that I can be. And it's a constant struggle. It's a daily struggle. But that's something for me that I'm always thinking about because I, at many points in my life, I've been made to feel like I'm not as, great as those around me. And I can definitely identify with, others who feel that way. And so in the ways that I want to lift them up, I need to learn that I have to lift myself up too.
That is so insightful on all of your parts. I think for me right now, it's also security because mentioning the transition from employee to entrepreneur. As an employee, you know where you're going and you know that every 2 weeks you're going to get a check. As an entrepreneur, I never know where my next client is. Therefore, I never know where my next check is. So when I make a big one, I have to be really careful with it. And so I want to say this to you, to myself, and to our audience. Are you ready? Yeah?
Yeah.
It's okay not to be okay. It's totally okay not to be okay. And that is the highest form of self-love that I think we can exercise. And these days, everyone is trying to be uber positive and uber up. And I was on LinkedIn and it was like 3 months ago where I just saw someone say, it's okay not to be okay. And I felt such a sense of relief because as a very AAA personality, hard driver, goal oriented, some days literally the best I could do was go from my bed upstairs to the couch downstairs because my sense of security was just completely out of whack. And it's okay not to be okay. As a matter of fact, not too long ago, again on LinkedIn, I saw one of those banners and it said, toxic positivity is not good. Everything isn't great right now, people. It's just not. Stop trying to put a positive spin on things. While I get that we're always looking for the silver lining, it's okay to say, you know what? Today, not only is there not a silver lining, all I see is clouds, and it is what it is, which is one of the reasons why my tagline is stay blessed and keep it real. We are all blessed to be a blessing. What I hear from all of you is to some degree, you want to be able to be there for others while you're dealing with your own stuff. And that's beautiful. But keeping it real comes from the point that we need to keep it real first with ourselves. And to keep it real with ourselves sometimes is to say, I'm not okay today. I just need to sit and be in that. And in being in that and self-assessing where we are and honing in on what's really going on and investigating that a little bit, it gives us the opportunity to fix our self-perception and our self-talk so that we can move forward and then find someone to team with us and help us get past that patch, that hurdle that we're going through. So Eloy, you talked about your security has been compromised because your school schedule is completely out of whack. And I can totally relate to that because if there's anything that we can control, it should be our school schedule. But right, the framework and the structure around that has changed. Shar is talking about fairness. And I love how you said you want to have as much compassion for yourself as you have for other people. That is so huge. If we don't take care of ourselves well, we can't possibly help be there for those that we love. And I often use this example when I'm working with clients. When we're flying and we hear that safety announcement, put your mask on first and then the mask of whoever you're traveling with. Notice it's even children. You don't put the mask on the child first. You put the mask on yourself. Because if you have lost oxygen and you can't think clearly, you're not going to be able to get that mask on anyone else. And so we must think about the fairness in how we're treating ourselves as well as how we treat others and how we can show up for others. And I often say we need to learn how to extend grace to ourselves so that we can then extend it to others. And we need to learn how to receive grace unto ourselves so that others are comfortable with receiving grace. And then Adrian talking about esteem and esteem for self and others. That's huge. And I love how you've all come from the perspective of, even though you have to take care of self, you're always concerned about others. So now I want to explore what is it that you can either start, stop, do more of, or do less of to help move yourself forward. So for instance, in my space of wanting security that just isn't there anymore simply because I'm an entrepreneur, I have decided to stop worrying about the things I can't control. I have decided to start focusing on one task in the morning and one task in the morning so that I don't overwhelm myself. I have decided to do more of expressing gratitude vocally and verbally. And I've decided to do less of listening to that little voice that says, you're not smart enough yet, and interrupting that voice and saying, I'm not smart enough in this yet, and I've got the smarts to get there. So think about what you can start, stop, do more of, or do less of in terms of what you're dealing with. So Eloy's is security, Shar's is fairness, and Adrian's is esteem. So who wants to take a crack at it first?
I'll go.
Okay.
I think the simplest thing that I could do is to mirror my behavior in the sense of I want to extend the same compassion to myself that I do other people.
Yes.
So I'm thinking if I am having a conversation with someone that is struggling with depression, I'm going to offer some tools, some things they can do, just as simple as you were saying. Just give yourself one task a day. Don't overwhelm yourself. I can do the same thing. And in that, I'll be helping, encourage, and kind of creating a balance with that person. I'll create one task that I'll do a day as well. And I could, like I said, mirror that compassion that I'm extending to them by doing the same thing for myself. And I think that's a real tangible way to begin that journey of self-love and understanding.
Absolutely. I love how you have framed that. If you can share that with someone else and then take it to heart for yourself, you're going to get there so much faster. Thank you, Shar. That was beautiful. Eloy or Adrian, who's next?
Yeah, I think I can reevaluate my expectations and remind myself that because everything is different, it's going to be different. And it's going to take an adjustment period to not only feel okay with the uncertainty, right? But not add anything else to it. Like it can just be uncertain, it can just be a little stressful. It doesn't have to be riddled with worry as well. You know, be patient and reevaluate my expectations and stay open, because I know that I'm going to do the best that I can. And I know that I'm going to try my hardest given the situation once it's all out there. So I just need to remember that I'm going to do what's best once I know what I'm dealing with. So being patient in getting to that point and reevaluating the expectations that aren't able to be there anymore, to kind of reduce the pressure I feel and help to go with the flow.
Absolutely. And that's going to give you right away, you've just taken back your sense of control just in what you've said. And to be able to follow that up with action is going to take you even more into a sense of control. I love how you've said reevaluate expectations. Oftentimes when I'm working with clients, one of the first things I ask them is, are you being real about where you're starting? Are you being real about where you're going? And are you being real about how you're going to get there? Too often we have these fantastic goals and we get defeated really quickly because we weren't realistic about where we were starting and we weren't realistic about how we're going to get there. And so while goal setting is important, a realistic goal, a realistic starting point, and a realistic path forward is what's going to help us get there. And simply by acknowledging the fact that you need to think about those things, you've already put yourself back in control. So congratulations. Congratulations. Adrian, how about for you, my friend?
When I think a lot about esteem and self-image, what immediately comes to mind is love languages and the ways that I consider those when building other people up. And when I think about my own personal love languages, you know, what are things that I feel help build me up? For me, it's really words of affirmation. Words of affirmation go so far for me and really just lift me up in so many ways. And I think sometimes it feels corny to affirm myself, you know, verbally, but it really isn't. It's not at all. And, you know, the same way that I'm thinking about those love languages in terms of other people, whether that be, you know, acts of kindness or, you know, quality time, for me, it's really those words. And, you know, are there ways that I can speak more kindly to myself or speak love over myself or speak life over myself, whether it's just, you know, a daily affirmation of some kind, whether it's, you know, a journal entry or you know, writing a poem or something that verbally I'm putting out there that I know is going to help nurture me and help me feel more confident and more like myself. And so I need to think about those things because I definitely know that there are moments where I could use that and I could really benefit from it, but I just don't do it. And I know that's a problem, and I know that it's something that I could be working on. So, you know, definitely that for me is what sticks out.
I love how you talked about self-affirmation and the importance of your speech. I had talked about the fact that we need to fix our self-perception so that we can fix our self-talk. And truly, the power of life and death is in the tongue, which is why we need to be so careful in how we talk about ourselves and how we talk about others. You know, there was this saying when we were kids, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. And that is so not true. There are power in our words. There is so much power in our words. And so the fact that you've come to that realization about the importance of speaking well of yourself to yourself is huge. So thank you for sharing that. This has been a really powerful conversation. I hope that you all gained something by the opportunity of learning a little bit about psychological safety and what driver might be impacting you right now and how you can work on that to come out better on the other side. I hope that was also the case for our listeners. I wanted to end our conversation with psychological safety, going back for a minute about where we started with our first conversation, talking about Kanye West and how he came to this decision and who's in his inner circle and what that inner circle might look like. We cannot tell from the outside looking in what's going on. So that's why I wanted us to explore psychological safety and some of the drivers that come up for us that to the outside looking in might look to other people as kind of crazy. Well, this world right now is crazy. Our thoughts, they're just not processing the way they would have when things were normal. And so the process of figuring out a new normal for us as individuals, let alone in our circles of tight influence and security, let alone where we're working, where we're going to school, there is so much to think about right now. So I just wanted us to pause and become familiar with psychological safety. Think about which area you might be most impacted in by now, because in our next conversation, which is going to be my other show, Real Conversations with Dr. Anita, I'm actually going to sit down with Dr. Cherie Montgomery, and she's going to talk with us about mental health and wellness. And we're going to really dig deep into bipolar disorder, which she can speak of firsthand. She has a son who's suffering from bipolar disorder. And so that's where we're going to end this month's conversation. I want to thank my co-contributors, Sharday, who I guess she had to go, Eloy and Adrian. You all, thank you so much. Thank you for being willing to share from your heart. I have decided that in our series of conversations, the first show is going to be what's going on out there in the world. But the second show is always going to bring it home, bring it close to ourselves so that our audience understands we're not putting ourselves up here to judge anybody. We're just exploring a topic and then seeing how we can make it real and relatable to ourselves so that then our audience can learn from some of our personal insights. So I want to thank you both for being with me today. I look forward to seeing you all next month. And until we all get together again, this is Dr. Anita reminding you to stay blessed and keep it real. Bye.